Welcome to this historic event, the signing of a shared stewardship agreement between the state of Arizona and the United States Forest Service. Welcome, Governor Hobbs, and welcome USDA Undersecretary for Natural Resources and Environment, Dr. Homer Wilkes. My name is Bill Boyd. I'm the Deputy Director of the Department of Forestry and Fire Management. We are here to mark the renewal of the partnership between the state of Arizona and the United States Forest Service. We believe this shared stewardship agreement will help shape the future of our state and the future and health and resilience of our national forests within Arizona. The signing of this document reaffirms our long-time partnership and both parties' commitment to protecting Arizona's natural resources and protecting rural communities from the threat of wildfire. With us here today and providing remarks are Cecilia Clave, USDA's Deputy Regional Forester for Region 3, Dr. Homer Wilkes, USDA Undersecretary for Natural Resources and the Environment, Tom Torus, Arizona State Forester, and Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs. Up first is Cecilia Clave, USDA Deputy Regional Forester.
Thank you, Bill. Good morning. Again, I'm Cecilia Clave, Deputy Regional Forester here in the southwestern region of the Forest Service. I'm here representing Michiko Martin, our regional forester. It's been a pleasure working with the state on this agreement, and I thank Tom Torres and his team for his leadership and partnership in that process. Arizona is home to 6 national forests, each with relationships with the state of Arizona and its people. These forests are represented here today, and I want to thank their leaders for their service in managing these lands and the natural resources they provide for all Americans. It's my honor to introduce another public servant and distinguished leader who has dedicated his career to the conservation and sustainability of natural resources. Dr. Homer Wilkes serves as Undersecretary for Natural Resources and Environment for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, which oversees the Forest Service and the 193 million acres of national forests and grasslands. Dr. Wilkes has been a dedicated advocate for sustainable practices, bringing decades of experiences and leadership to the position he currently holds. Today he speaks on behalf of the Department of Agriculture, and please join me in welcoming Dr. Wilkes.
Good morning. Thank you, CC. Thank you, Governor. It's good seeing you again.
Yeah, you too.
Bill, as well as Tom. You know, in 2018, the Forest Service actually announced a new shared stewardship agreement. And we had 3 distinct strategies that we wanted to address when that agreement was signed. We wanted to increase the pace and the scale of the forest health restoration treatments. We wanted to identify cross-boundary solutions, as well as identified mutual science-based priorities. And so I'm very pleased to be here today to actually have a continuing of that type of collaboration and partnership. This strategy was grounded in trying to address some of the concerns that we had. So in January, 22, we identified a wildfire crisis strategy. And in that strategy, we had 21 landscapes that we wanted to actually intentionally work on. And this wasn't done just coming out of midair. We actually had roundtable discussions and got buy-in from the public to determine where was the most critical landscapes that need to be addressed. And out of that came 250 fire sheds, where we actually went there and identified the type of work that needed to be done. And let me tell you, that's a lot of work for anybody, but I want to actually say that that's the importance of this shared stewardship agreement. The work that needs to be done is too big for one particular entity or organization. So it's so important to have those partnerships working here. And Governor, I want to say that I'm elated to have you and the state of Arizona as a partner. Folks, I will tell you, you can go and work on places, but when you have people that have an interest in wanting to not only buy into what you're trying to do, but to be in it, it makes a world of difference. Tom and his staff, the state forest here, we've worked with each other for a number of years, so we're not strangers. So this shared stewardship agreement it actually brought a collection of federal and state agencies together to make sure that we work together and there wasn't any territorial. So this agreement says that, okay, we will work together to address the concerns that the wildfire crisis identified, and we're taking place on that right now. Now, let me just see. The best way I can describe this is that how elated I am to be here today. You know, this is a very, very, very good, strong indication of how state, federal, local governments can work together. And I see that here in this particular state, really, really see that in this state. So, again, Governor, I'm happy to stand side by side with you today so we can sign this agreement so we continue this good work that we've been doing and we're going to continue to do. So it's a continuing of that. And as I said, we want to accelerate the forest health treatments. We want to support and grow the forest product industry here. We also want to coordinate with our tribal nations. We want to use all the tools available and the best available science and traditional ecological knowledge in order to make this thing happen. So before I close, I just want to recognize a few people that's actually in the audience today. Number one is that I want to represent the tribal members that may be here. Thank you for coming and really appreciate it. In addition to the signing this shared stewardship agreement, we have several agreements with the tribal nations also. The St. Carlos Apache is actually one of the groups that's actually we've signed an agreement with. But not only that, we have over 180 shared stewardship agreements around these United States. So we want to make sure that we actually appreciate and acknowledge the indigenous knowledge that actually comes from the tribal leadership out there. Also, I want to recognize the Nature Conservancy, one of our strong partners, really a strong partner. And I think, you know, when you have budget concerns, I'll say opportunities, Governor, everybody's dealing with them. But I think those types of opportunities afford us to actually be creative and innovative. And I want to give the shout out to the Nature Conservancy because of some of the work that they are actually doing in the area of creativity and innovation. So I'm very proud to be a part of that group. Also, here in Arizona, you know, TNC has been a valuable partner supporting the Forefry, major wood industry company that's actually going to be producing products here in the state. And that group will be creating jobs, and that's what it really should be about. We're talking about trying to protect these communities from wildfire, but at the same time, we want to make sure jobs are being created. So, again, I'm very pleased to be here. I'm very proud to be a part of this partnership, and just say thank you. And, Governor, again, thank you really for your support and your efforts that have taken place around here. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Hey, good morning, all. Again, I'm Tom Torus. I'm the state forester, and I have the responsibility, the ability to coordinate, collaborate with the U.S. Forest Service on issues related to forestry and fire. In Arizona, there are 11 million acres of federal Forest Service lands, and there's a lot of work to be done. And this agreement will help us collaborate even greater. I am pleased to say that this agreement builds on a lot of existing momentum, some of the momentum that Dr. Wilkes mentioned. You know, since the release of the Wildfire Crisis Strategy in 2022, as Dr. Wilkes mentioned, 21 landscapes have been identified across the western United States. 3 of those landscapes are in Arizona. One is the San Carlos Apache tribal landscape, the other is the Forefry landscape in northern Arizona, and the other is the greater Prescott landscape around the Prescott community. These priority landscapes, as well as other project areas like the Catalina-Rincon Joint Chiefs Project within the Coronado National Forest in southern Arizona, will inform our future collaborative work. You know, under Governor Hobbs' leadership, the Arizona Department of Forestry and Fire Management is committed to increasing the implementation of forest restoration, and this work is in alignment with one of our statewide priority outcomes to increase the number of treated acres to 40,000 implemented by the state of Arizona on an annual basis by fiscal year 26. As Dr. Wilkes mentioned, we don't do this alone. We rely on a lot of partners. This new agreement highlights a very important partnership between the state and the federal government, but there are other partners including cities and towns and counties, tribal nations, utility companies, corporate sponsors, private forest businesses and numerous conservation organizations that are engaged, and we need them to be successful as a whole. One partner in particular that I want to highlight is the Salt River Project. They help us leverage our efforts at the state in coordination with the Forest Service. Through this relationship, to date, there are over 90,000 acres already in existing agreements to do treatments on the federal landscape. To date, over $37 million of federal investments have been made on those Forest Service lands, and they have been matched to the tune of $25 million. This is a model unique to Arizona, and this agreement today will continue to build on that success. Another example referenced by Dr. Wilkes is the new 20-year master stewardship agreement between the Forest Service and the Nature Conservancy. You know, one of the unique things about the Nature Conservancy is they're guided by science and data, and they're trying to help us find innovative approaches to increasing the pace and scale that's needed to really address this problem. The TNC agreement provides flexibility to work across jurisdictional boundaries, expand treatment opportunities, and garner additional support from a wide host of partners. Now, at the end of the day, implementation of this work is a public-private venture where private companies largely are responsible for getting the work done on the job. They also provide those jobs that Dr. Wilkes mentioned, and they also provide economic stimulus largely to rural Arizona. From project planning to vegetation removal to road maintenance to transformation of wood fiber to a marketable product, success is dependent on a vibrant and reliable private sector. One key to success for private industry is consistent supply. The agreement that we're going to sign today seeks to help this issue by making larger project areas available for bidding and award by DFFM, which will help reduce that uncertainty to private business. I also want to emphasize the importance of our tribal nations in this work. Arizona's tribes have stewarded this land for thousands of years using traditional knowledge and practices to maintain the health of Arizona's landscapes. And as we implement this agreement, we will seek to collaborate with our tribal leaders to ensure their perspectives are incorporated into the future work. The last thing I'll mention is around funding. You know, over the past few years, the federal bipartisan infrastructure law and the Inflation Reduction Act, as well as state appropriations, have resulted in a significant infusion of funding to accomplish a lot of work. And it's making a real difference right now. As partners with the common goal, we must continue to maintain the Arizona momentum through commitments that include continued federal funding to address the wildfire risks on federal lands as envisioned in the 10-year wildfire crisis strategy. We're 3 years into that 10-year strategy. I am hopeful that this new agreement will help sustain the rationale for that continued funding. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Governor Hobbs for more details. Governor?
Thank you so much. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. Glad you all could be here today for this. This is a really exciting day for Arizona. Thank you, Undersecretary Wilkes, for being here, and more importantly, for your continued partnership with the state of Arizona. Also want to recognize Deputy Regional Forester Cecilia Clave and the amazing leadership of Director Torus at the Department of Forestry and Fire Management, and many others who came here from parts of the state or from out of state. You know, we were just talking earlier, Arizona doesn't have wildfire season anymore. Arizonans are under threat of wildfire 365 days a year. And the threat posed by wildfires grows every year, which means we need all the tools available to combat them. Thousands of state, federal, and local partners worked with us to address nearly 2,000 wildfires in Arizona this year. In fact, there are ongoing wildfires as we speak. Arizonans across the state, from Flagstaff to Tortilla Flat to Payson, even on the outskirts of Phoenix, we're all faced with threats this year. So as you can see, the need for continued collaboration remains high. And that is why this agreement and why we're here today is so exciting for the state of Arizona, to really cement our partnership with the federal government and the Department of Agriculture on our shared partnership on these shared lands. It's been a long time coming. Being good stewards of the lands we share, whether they're state or federal, is critical to managing the ongoing wildfires that we continue to face. There was an initial agreement that was signed in 2020 that laid the groundwork for this more comprehensive agreement. And I've had many conversations with experts on the ground since then, and it's abundantly clear that our communities need this agreement to not only be renewed, but also strengthened. I know it's been a priority for Director Torus since he came to the department, and I'm really glad to see this important step of commitment with the USDA and Forest Service. So specifically what this agreement does, first and foremost, creates an annual planning meeting between DFFM and the U.S. Forest Service to identify priority landscapes, coordinate efforts across the board that include fire prevention and mitigation, prescribed burns, and forest and watershed restoration efforts. Secondly, expanding the acreage of Good Neighbor Authority projects, and will help us achieve our goal of treating 40,000 acres of land by the end of my first term, and ensure consistent delivery of lumber and timber supply to support the industry that Director Torus was talking about. Thirdly, it establishes a shared transportation agreement, which will facilitate access to land for forest operators, which means those products can get to where they need to go more easily. Fourth, it shares the geographical information system, allowing DFFM to have centralized mapping resources for all of the restoration activity. And finally, it aims to create a biomass disposal and utilization plan within the next year and a half, and which will help make sure that we're being responsible stewards of the environment. We know that wildfires are not going to stop being a threat, and part of creating a safe Arizona for everyone is doing everything we can to protect Arizonans from the threats we know. Everyone here today is committed to doing that, and this agreement really represents a new chapter of collaboration between the state of Arizona, the federal government, DFFM, and the U.S. Forest Service. I want to also thank Secretary Vilsack, who's not here today, again, Under Secretary Wilkes, and Director Tom Torres. Also, the Office of Resiliency, who has done a lot of work on this agreement, and stakeholders that have already been mentioned but deserve mention again, the Nature Conservancy, the National Forest Foundation, our tribal partners, our utility partners, county officials from across the state, and representatives from the forest product industry. Your input has been so critical to this agreement and the reason we're here today. And to all of the forestry professionals, first responders, and firefighters who continue to put the safety of our communities first, thank you so much. And with that, we will sign this agreement.
transition into some Q&A. The Undersecretary has some other things to get to, so if we have on-topic questions first, so we can allow him to go after that. So if people have on-topic questions, let's get anyone. That would be, does anybody have a question related to forestry and fire management?
Fire's bad. Thank you.
No?
Wow, Howie, that was
Oh, just make sure you are free to go.
Governor.